And away we go. This is week 6, hot and cold on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Welcome to the program. Please subscribe if you like what we've got going on over here. Hit that like button as well if you're watching on YouTube. And please drop a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. I'm your host, Dan Vespris, and you can find me on Twitter at Dan Vespris, DANBESBRIS. I am Old Man Squad over on the brand new Blue Sky social media network, if you're into that sort of thing. And you can also follow all of our video shorts on Instagram at Old Man Squad Fantasy. Today, we're going to be going through the hottest and coldest players of the last week, the folks that moved up or down the boards the most. We've got about 40 names again. And then mixed in within those names, I think we've got 8 of my favorite trade targets. So we'll blitz through the 30-some-odd names that I don't think are quite as actionable and then spend some time on the buy low, sell high opportunities that have popped up within the hot and cold players from this last week. What's the purpose of all of this? Well, the purpose is to try to find sort of inefficiencies in public perception based on how guys are playing right now. I think that's fairly straightforward. I don't know that we needed to go through that, but I did. And we've got some nice movers to dig into. The funny thing is I was sort of working my way through ideas for a show today, and I could have saved myself a lot of time by just doing a buy low or a sell high program. Those take less time to actually go through and sort of collect all the data. But I didn't know that there was enough of either of them. And frankly, I thought there were more sell highs than buy lows this last week. And the data then ended up kind of bearing that out. But altogether, we've got 8 names. And that makes for, I think, a pretty nice, meaty program for us to dig into. So let's get started. We'll do a few names, then we'll come back and tell you guys about our buddies at Bet Online. For now, here are the big risers, the hottest players over the last week. We'll start with the largest jumps. I'll try to tell you where they were and where they ended up, just for context. And then we'll stop on the ones that I think where maybe we can do something with it. Amen Thompson is the biggest jumper of the week. He jumped 51 slots from 161 to 110. And in my eyes, just the beginning. This is why most analysts were high on Thompson coming into the year. The minutes are starting to trend up and the stats are coming with it. He's actually been a pretty decent free throw shooter so far this year. Not good, but not wrecking your team. Good rebounder, good field goal percent, big steals and blocks. There's just sort of like infinite potential there. It's not a sell high. He's a dude on the rise. Trey Murphy up 47 slots over the last week from 153 to 106. This is just a guy getting his sea legs underneath him. Enjoy the ride. Russell Westbrook up 40 slots, although this is basically like as far down the board as you can start. He was at 212, and I just do the top 215 because that's what you can pull off of Basketball Monster, the rank board. He went from 212 to 172, and to Russ's credit, he's actually played okay over the last week, but it's not like you're going to sell high on this run. And I also don't know that you're even making an ad on this run. Derrick Jones Jr. jumped 35 slots, and he seems to have been the guy to win out with Norman Powell out, but it sounds like Powell might be back as soon as tonight, so this may end up being a whole lot of nothing, and it probably would have been better for me to just leave him off the board. Josh Giddey up 35 slots, and this is another one where we're kind of like, yeah, but from 205 to 170, we'll take what we can get out of Giddey at this point. His minutes stink. His shooting stinks so far. He's actually, if anything, a little bit of a buy low, but he's been warm lately, so I don't know if you're going to be able to buy as low as you could have a week ago. And frankly, I don't know what I would give up for Giddey because it's looking more and more like 100 might be the target. And so what are you going to do? Like, nobody wants the 115 player. Most teams would rather just take a shot on Giddey. But I guess you could maybe offer up someone like a Bilal Coulibaly and see if that would get it done. He's hovering right around 100, and he's young, and there's some unknown there. That might be your best opportunity to maybe trade in someone whose upside is a little bit capped by Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma and just guys taking a lot of shots that maybe in a different future universe might belong to him. But it's not like you're going to be able to give up Julian Champagny for Giddey, even though he's ranked higher. Everybody looks at the Spurs and they're like, yeah, but their main two wings are on the shelf right now. You have to give up something. Jeremy Grant would have been the one. He's always the guy right in that range of sell, 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 but he's hurt now. So good luck to you on that front. So if you wanted to, you could call Josh Giddey actually a little bit of a buy low, even though he's on the risers board, but we'll just leave him uncolor-coded for today's show. Tyrese Maxey up 30 slots, but that one was always kind of fluky. Cody Martin is up 29 slots. He's been pretty good defensively lately. And you've got to figure a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Hornets are down Miles Bridges, Nick Richards, Mark Williams, and now Grant Williams as well. So is there enough there to make him an injury replacement? Borderline. But in terms of actionable trade stuff, nothing there. Isaiah Stewart up 28 slots. He's been on a furious blocks binge to move from 130 to 102, but we've talked about this extensively. The minutes are the issue with Stewart. He's at 22 minutes per game, shooting 60% from the field, 86% at the free throw line, and 1.6 blocks per game. None of those things is going to last at their current rate. This is a guy who will presumably very soon head in the wrong direction. I don't think you could get anything for him, but if you could, he would be a sell high. But I'm only making the sell high markers on dudes I think you can get something back for. I want to be as sort of true to like sort of advanced novice and then beyond level fantasy leagues. And there's really only extreme beginner leagues where you'd be able to sell Isaiah Stewart for something right now. Lauri Markkanen is up 27 slots, and then he banged his knee, and hopefully that won't cost him more than a couple of ball games, if that. He's up to number 59. You might remember we had him on our buy low board when he was number 121. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously done now. He's up 62 slots over the last 2 weeks. The buy low window is done. Problem solved on that one. And now we get to our first true buy low of the day, and that's OG Anunoby, who advanced 26 slots from 44 to 18, putting up one of the finest fantasy lines that I've seen all season when the Knicks clubbed the Denver Nuggets. What was that, on Monday? Right? They went into Denver and just spanked them. And OG had 45 and 4 with a block and 5 3-pointers on a perfect 3-for-3 foul shooting. He shot 70% on 23 shots from the field. He only had 1 turnover. It was one of those like blemish-free games where the disappointed dad would go, yeah, but what about the steals, OG? But the dude is playing out of his mind. That's the important part. We always have the fear of injury hanging over OG, but beyond that, he's at 52.5% from the field, 83 at the free throw line, 14 shots per game. He's at 2.2 defensive stats, which is the part that I think we all figured would probably be there. But the Knicks are just so thin right now that basically everyone on that team is in a sell-high proposition. Cat playing 34 minutes a game and splitting 55-84. Josh Hart playing 37 minutes a game and shooting 61% from the field. And then OG. Now, Mikal Bridges is not, because there's just not a whole lot left for him. And then Jalen Brunson is also not a sell high because he got off to a really slow start, mostly with shooting, although that's kind of leveled off now. But all of these guys need to be doing less. And it's the Knicks, if they ever get healthy, these guys will start to do a little bit less. I don't care that it's Tom Thibodeau. This was not the plan coming into the year. Hopefully, they all can sort of stay on their feet. But I think we're far enough into the season now where the team with OG Anunoby, and maybe it's you, is thinking, oh yeah, I got myself like a second rounder. I'm good to go. But this is the perfect moment to try to cash in. And I feel pretty confident that you can get a top 40 range guy back for him right now. But the question is, who falls in that range that you'd even want? Maybe you could get somebody that's underperforming a tiny bit, like a Freddie VanVleet or a Tyrese Maxey are in that neighborhood. Before his last giant ball game, you probably could have gotten Tyrese Haliburton, which that definitely would have been the move. Looking a little farther up the board, Darius Garland at 36, who's liable to fall back a little bit farther. That might be one to think about. That's my kid screaming in the other room. I don't think I would go Bradley Beal. I don't think you could get Alperen Şengün, but you could try. Evan Mobley, I would try to get. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would give it a go. And then I don't know that you'll be able to get anybody farther up the board than that. But those are the kinds of names you should think about with OG. I think you're at the perfect spot right now because he's hotter than lightning and he's ranked in the second round. So that's sell opportunity number one. Back to the names that are not really actionable. TJ McConnell advanced 26 slots from 181 to 155. This is largely because Ben Shepherd's been out, so really nothing that we can do with that. Dereck Lively II, not to be confused with Dereck Lively VIII, moved up the board 25 slots. He's number 118 now. He's crawling closer to where we kind of figured he would be, which was somewhere in that 100 range, maybe a little bit better in a good scenario, but slightly better than a filler, basically. Low-end center. Nothing to do there. Collin Sexton up 25 slots, number 145. Some of that's because Jordan Clarkson's been out. If Markkanen has to miss a game or two, you figure that'll probably also trend in the correct direction. Although I'll admit, the more I watch the Jazz, the more I think Collin Sexton's going to just be a filler-level guy this year. So the move, I believe, is if we can get one or two more good ones out of Sexton, that's when you try to move him for some other guy around the 80 to 110 range and just not have to deal with whatever's going to happen in Utah. Scottie Barnes moved up 24 slots to 66. He'll keep going. Ty Jerome up 24 slots to number 77. I think there's enough. And so he's our second player that I've listed as a possible sell high. And I know what you guys are thinking. How the hell am I going to get anything for Ty Jerome? It's a good question because the dude's averaging 19 minutes a game so far this year, but he's shooting 60% with a fairly heavy dose of three-pointers involved there, 88 at the foul line, and he's kind of doing like an even lower minute per game Peyton Pritchard sort of deal, which is just coming out, throwing fireballs at the rim. We're probably not at a point yet where you can get much, but you might be able to get that one manager in the league that's thinking, yeah, maybe there's something here because we don't technically know. The way that works out for the other person, if you're going to buy on Ty Jerome, is Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell going down for more than a game here and there. And this can happen. There's a lot of NBA season left. Guys get hurt all the time. The whole damn board is constantly hurt in the NBA these days. So again, you're just looking for sort of like a safe plotting 100 range type guy coming back. The end of starting roster type of dude. See who might float around in there. Somebody that maybe is falling, that just fell to that point. Coulibaly. Oh my God, butchered the hell out of that. Coulibaly, who's been falling a little bit. Keegan Murray, who's been falling a little bit. Naz Reid. I don't think you'll be able to get the other names around those guys. Amen Thompson, who's been playing well. You're going to need a cold snap from him if you're going to make that move. I don't think I want... Jonas Valanciunas would be one I might consider. I know his numbers are not great this year, but he'll plod along at a much safer clip than Ty Jerome. I don't want Grady Dick. I don't want many of the other names in that particular area. Maybe you could get Mike Conley for him right now, who's just coming back from a toe injury. Maybe that's the move. Drew Holiday, Mike Conley. See if you can get those guys for Ty Jerome. And if not, if you want to play the heater, you play the heater. If you don't, you don't. I don't care. PJ Washington is up 21 slots. He's probably a little bit of a sell high, but honestly, I'm just going to ride it out at this point. He's number 61. Luka's out, so he's doing more for a little bit. I think there's just a matter of time before Kyrie has to miss a couple ball games, and this will happen regularly throughout the year. And your PJ hate, I just let it wash over me. He's number 61 despite shooting 44% still from the field. 78 at the free throw line is a little better than we expected, but the other stuff is just humming along. Good rebounds, good steals, good blocks. Just under 1 3-pointer. So very close to being a 1-1-1 guy. You guys know I've been pro PJ. I always felt like looking at his numbers from the end of last year, he was ranked outside the top 100 mostly, but that was because he was shooting like 63% at the free throw line. So, if you had adjusted for more career norm type of stuff with him, then he would have been like a top 80 guy the last, I think it was month and a half of the season. And what changed? Klay Thompson coming in? Come on. Klay Thompson is old as dirt. He's on the list of players that's going down, and I still don't want him at 146. Andrew Wiggins is up 21 slots. Much like PJ, he's probably a little bit of a sell high, but also, like, with those guys, you might as well just ride it out. I don't know that you're going to get a whole lot for Wiggins unless you wanted to do the same thing we just talked about with Ty Jerome. I would be fine with that. But let's get to our next actual sell high for today, and that's Brandon Miller, who's on a really nice run. He's up to number 40, but that I don't think is where you're, like, what people are seeing from him. They're going to see the last week where he's been a first rounder the last week. Jumping from 60 to 40 is hard to do once you're 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season. And so I think there you have the power of the unknown again. And right now, the steals are very high. The free throw number is very high. The rebounds and the assists and the threes are all pretty high, although you can see the threes and the scoring maybe subsist. But also, look, I know it's not big things that are coming down the pike with the Hornets, but Miles Bridges, Mark Williams, and Nick Richards all being, and now Grant Williams also, all these guys being out, it does have some kind of an impact. Like, you can see it with LaMelo Ball also, who's been scoring 40 points a game for the last week. These guys are just being forced to do extra. It's hard to see. With LaMelo, it's been much more obvious. He's just sort of soaking up everything. With Brandon Miller, there's been some of that soaking as well. So aim for top 35 with him, or even aim for top 40. I don't care. Look in this same range that we just talked. Who the hell were we just talking about a minute ago? OG Anunoby. You can probably do around the same general area, and I would. See if you can get Maxey, we just talked about. See if you can get Freddie VanVleet, who's been slowly on the rise outside of the game where he got ejected. That'll push you artificially back down the board a little bit. See if you can get one of these more name brand guys. And I get it. Brandon Miller's exciting because he's the young guy, and we don't really know exactly where he's going to finish. But we do know that if the Hornets ever get healthy, the main guys are going to have to do a little bit less. It's just not healthy for them to be doing as much as they're doing long term. Try to cash in. This is your time. Those names we just talked about with OG, those are the same names you should be looking at with Brandon Miller. I don't know if you'll be able to get Evan Mobley because he's not ranked in front of him right now, but still, that's the guy that I would love to get in there because it's just this locked in, very secure value. Use the sell high opportunity to get the guaranteed good. Jaylen Brown is up 17 slots. This one was sort of like you could kind of see this one coming. He was at 85, but it wasn't his free throw that was keeping him down. It was his field goal, so you kind of knew that was going to come back. Franz Wagner at number 16, and we've already talked about him as a possible sell high on some other shows. Sorry, not at number 16. He moved up 16 slots to number 12. He's playing out of his mind right now. And the funny thing is, percentages-wise, there's nothing that's fully unsustainable for him. The field goal is right around where you'd expect. The free throw is pretty close to what you'd expect. The steals are very much on the high side at 1.8 per ball game. The thing with Franz right now is that his usage is just way, way up. And that's a Paolo-related thing. The difference between Franz and OG Anunoby and Brandon Miller is that, for one, Franz is in the first round and doesn't have an extended injury history like OG does. But also, the drop-off with Franz is going to be, I think, less stark because the percentages are not going to be part of it. It's just going to be a usage peel down, which, I don't know, maybe that happens with OG, maybe that happens with Miller as well, probably does. But with Franz, like, sometimes with these guys, Tyler Hero is a good example of a guy whose usage was probably going to come down as he cooled off, and it was kind of be like a little bit of a double whammy, and he's already down to number 41, so there's already been a two-round drop-off on him, and we'll talk about Hero, I think, on the droppers. But for Franz, as the usage drops off, there isn't going to be, it's not like he's getting more because he's hot. He's getting more because he's the only guy left on that team that can really be a true creating offensive threat every night with no Paolo. The nice thing about that is the drop-off is probably going to be obvious, but it's not going to be like he goes from, top 20 to top 90. It'll be like top 20 to top 40 kind of range. And then we'll see what happens around him. How far does he drop off? Do the steals taper? Do the assists taper as well? We know the scoring certainly will, which in my mind means, at least for now, and also knowing that Paolo, frankly, just still isn't that close to coming back. We're still thinking, like about a month, a little less than a month left on that absence. You can probably play the Franz thing two different ways. You can sell, but I wouldn't take back anything worse than like a 30-35 guy. Because you might just be better off getting another month of top 20 play out of Franz, and then whatever it is after that, all rolled together, as opposed to trying to get the guy that's, 30 to 35 the whole way through. It probably plays somewhat evenly. And so then, like, if you're in Roto, which way do you lean? If you're in head-to-head, which way do you lean? If you're in head-to-head, is he getting you weekly wins right now that, trading for the steadier guy, like a round and a half, 2 rounds behind him that wouldn't? Strategically, your situation better than I do. If this is an opportunity, if you have a particularly healthy team right now in a head-to-head, maybe this is your opportunity to just ride the extraordinarily hot hands and try to build up a massive cache of wins. I don't know. Strategically, there's a few different ways, again, that you could play that. I just think that this is a time to cash in, if ever there was one, because you're able to still give him to someone saying, yeah, I know he's doing better than expected because Paolo's out, but Paolo's still out for another few weeks. So you're still going to get this crazy hot Franz. And maybe you could go get someone like a Derrick White, who's doesn't have a ton of name recognition, but he's number 19 this year. Maybe you could go get, I don't know if you're going to be able to get Jalen Johnson, but that would be a pretty good one. He's hovering right at the edge of the second round, but there isn't anybody that's coming for his stuff. I think you could almost easily get Evan Mobley. And that to me is the one where it's like, do you make that swap? Sure, why not? It sort of locks in this solid play the whole year long. But I'm not going down much farther than that, because once you get into, other than like Tyrese Maxey, who we know is going to move up the board here as he shoots better than 41%. Do we go as far as Van Vliet? I mean, maybe it's that same thing, but I think you might as well try to get more out of Franz before that. Unless you can really get that like main dude, you probably try to cash a little bit longer. Jalen Johnson is up 16 slots. I don't think it's a sell high. I think he's always just been kind of working his way back to where he belonged. Tyrese Haliburton also up 16 slots. Jalen to number 26, Hallie up to number 43. Damian Lillard is up 12 slots, which is notable. I know it's not a big number, but he went from 25 to 13. That's a very early number. LaMelo Ball up 10 from 30 to 20. He's obviously having himself a heck of a season. Better in head-to-head than Roto, obviously, because of the 4.4 turnovers. But it's hard to argue with 31, 5, and 7. LaMelo's going fairly crazy so far this year. And then John Collins up another 10 slots to number 25. He is a sell-high player because he's splitting 54-95 on percentages right now. There's also a chance that Utah eventually tries out some younger dudes and Walker Kessler's back. Now, I know they're coexisting pretty well over Kessler's first 2 games since coming back from his injury, but that's not a guarantee that it's going to be that way the whole way through. So see if you can get a top 50 guy for John Collins. I think you probably can. You could probably get someone like a Jakob Poeltl for him right now. You might be able to get, I don't know, Michael Porter Jr. is a little bit back of that. I don't think you're going to be able to get Hartenstein. That would be a tough one. Would you get Jaylen Brown? You might want to do it. I know Collins has been much, much better than some of those names I just rattled off, but those percentages are not going to stick. I know he's a good percentages dude. Like, that's been a thing, and it was the reason that so many of us, I'm sure myself maybe more than others because of how obsessed I get with percentages, but we're willing to roll with John Collins even when the situation wasn't as great, So it's not like he's going to go from being great to being bad at these things. But the free throw in particular, he's a 79% foul shooter for his career. He's at 95% so far this season. If you go back to the earlier parts of his career, he did shoot around 55% from the field. So I suppose it's conceivable that 54 could actually hold in Utah. Maybe that's not a number that comes down, but the free throw will, the rebounds likely will. I would assume the minutes probably do. And then the steals is definitely coming down. He's at 1.4 right now, and he's a 0.6 in that for his career in about a minute more per game. So that 1.4 steals is coming down. Rebounds, free throw, these are all things that are likely to trend pretty hard in the negative direction, on top of the fears that Utah then doesn't play him as much. But again, if you can get somebody in the 50-60 range, I would almost definitely do it. Even if he finishes ahead of that, at least you then don't have to deal with the worry. Here are your fallers. It's a shorter list, so this one won't take us quite as long, but there is some stuff to cover here. DeAndre Hunter fell the farthest of anybody in all of fantasy basketball at 51 slots. He's down to number 98. I think the field goal percent probably does come back a little bit, though, from 43.5. He's a good free throw guy. I'm holding on Hunter a little bit longer. Like, if the minutes do get up into that 29-30 range, I think he can be a top 100 guy. So not panicking yet, but, the 40 range was always going to be something that wasn't holding anyway. Draymond Green went way the hell down the board because actually heavily it was free throw shooting, this oddly enough. He's shooting under 60% at the foul line on almost 3 free throws per game. He's at 42.5% from the field, so the percentages are terrible. The other stuff is pretty much what you expected. 8 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, over a 3, about a steal, about a block. Got to get those percentages back. So he's close to a buy low, but there really isn't much that I would give up for him. So I left him off the buy low board. He's kind of like a buy low honorable mention. First real buy low that I want us to talk about is Desmond Bane, who's been very bad. He falls 44 slots to number 121 on the year so far. And I think everybody, including whoever has him, is fully aware that Bane is not going to stay this bad. But there may be fears about what he actually ends up getting to. Some of the stuff right now with Bane is just he was injured. So he's kind of working his way back. The minutes are mostly there, but not all the way there. And the other stuff is just he doesn't have his sea legs back yet. His free throw is down by 10%. His three-point percentage is down by about 9%. His field goal overall is down by about 4 or 5%. Steals are down because the minutes are down. Rebounds are weirdly up. We can probably ignore that, but you never know. Assists are down from last year when there wasn't any Ja. They're down from the year before, even when Ja was around. So that's a number that probably trends back up again as the minutes creep up from 27, 28 back into the 30, 31 range. 32, maybe he played 34 last year before getting hurt. I don't know that he's going to get quite that high. But there's just a lot of things, minutes, percentages, opportunity, like everything is trending in the right direction for Bane to probably push back up towards that top 50 range, meaning that gives you a crap ton of wiggle room on how much you want to give up for Bane. Because whoever has him knows he's not going to be number 120 all year, but they might be starting to think, oh, God, is this guy going to end up as like a 65, 75, 85 kind of guy? Whereas you can go, yeah, I've run the numbers and it's going to be better than that. So feel free to give up someone like an Austin Reaves at 85, who, by the way, is also a little bit of a buy low. So maybe not the best. Screw that one. Wipe him off the board. Who's another player in there that's actually playing well that you could give up? You know who I'd like to give up is Brandon Ingram. He's number 80, and life was as good as it could possibly be for him so far this year. Getting 19, 20 shots a game because the whole team's been hurt. Pelicans are starting to come back. So get rid of Brandon Ingram. He's a sell high, even though he's not on any of these boards. Go get Desmond Bane. See if you can get Desmond Bane for, I mean, I would do it for Jaylen Brown, but I think you could do it for cheaper than that. Julius Randle. See if you can get Bane for Julius Randle. See if you can get Bane for, I would have said Cam Thomas, but he just blew out a hammy and he's down for 3 weeks. So that screws that one up. I'm just looking at names on the board right now. I know this is bad podcasting, but you're going to have to stick with me. Dennis Schroeder, although he's going to do a lot with Cam Thomas out, but that's 3 weeks. And Bane is, 17 or whatever is left in the NBA season. So see if that'll get the job done. It might not. I don't want to go much higher than this. PJ Washington, Christian Brown. Yeah, you could definitely give up those guys for him. Norman Powell would be a great one if he comes back from his injury tonight and has a good ball game. Would I go Kobe White, assuming the steals come down? Maybe. Would I go Chris Paul, assuming he gets hurt? Maybe. Those guys are narrowing the win here. Would I go Tari Eason? Probably. That might actually get it done because he's been so freaking hot. Do you go Tyler Hero, try to catch him on the way down, Desmond Bane on the way up? I think you could do it for cheaper than some of the names that I'm throwing out right now, but I probably would do it for almost all of them, even the ones that don't feel like you're getting that much return. D'Angelo Russell. We've talked about him a lot, but we'll talk about him again because, screw it. Why the hell not? D'Lo has bottomed out. Fell 37 slots again. He's down to 196. He's down 86 slots since the first week of the season. But the Lakers are realizing that they need to change something up. And I talked a bit about it on the recap show earlier today. First of all, one of my buddies from back in the hoopball days, who had that tweet? I'm going to go make sure that I'm properly attributing the tweet before I throw it out into the universe here. Yeah, it was Najee Adams, one of my buddies from over back in the hoopball days, who is also an OMS, an Old Man Squad podcast host, the Run It Up podcast. He had a thread going earlier this morning out on social. By the way, you can find me on social at Dan Vespris, and he is at Najee Adams _ talking about D'Lo basically on one of the worst shooting runs of his entire career. I think he's like 4 of his last 26 from three-point land, and they're largely just open threes that are not going in. So issue number 1, he can't shoot. He's at 38% for the year. Solid like 5, 6, 7% worse than expected if you're looking at what he did towards the second half of last year. And by the way, that's not small because an extra 3-pointer a game or whatever we're talking about here is a big deal for scoring and for threes and for just general confidence and the ability to keep him on the floor. It's been a negative feedback loop, and then you get into a positive feedback loop. And this is not just about D'Lo. This is about players who have certain deficiencies, which for Russell is defense. He's a bad defender because he's slow, and he's said it out loud himself. I'm not saying anything that he hasn't put out into the universe. He's a slow basketball player. The whole Lakers team is slow as hell. And if you're bad at defense and you're cold as ice on offense, what's the point? But if you're bad on defense and you're lava hot on offense, then the choice is so simple, which is basically what happened with the Lakers the second half of last season. D'Lo caught fire for about 2.5 months. There was no reason ever to take him off the court, and the Lakers were beating teams with offense because you make a bucket. It's easier to set your defense. It's, again, this positive feedback versus negative feedback thing where other guys in the NBA don't have that issue to work through. If they're good at defense, if their offense comes and goes, it's not that big of a deal. They'll work through it. But if right now, the first month and a half of this season, it's not even a month and a half, it's a month and 5 days, D'Lo's bringing nothing to the table. So this is your classic bottoming out of a guy who doesn't play defense very well and then not bringing the usual stuff on offense. So his coach has been like, look, I can't make you part of our feature right now if you're playing horribly. But it'll end because he's a good shooter and has been for a while. I don't every once in a while a player just has a season where they're just bad. But I don't feel we're far enough into the year to make a claim like that. If he's still shooting 37, 38% from the field and we're 35 games into the year, then I might say, okay, fine. It's just that it's going to be that year. Or honestly, at that point, he might go on a 40-game run where he shoots 52% and it all levels off. But 17 games in, when he's again kind of being scapegoated a little bit, and trust me, he's been bad, but he's not the only problem on that team. And you can get him for nothing. He's getting dropped in leagues. I mean, you can see his percentage rostership. If you just look at that part of things with Yahoo, it's down to 84% now, down 2% basically every single day over the last week, and that's where we've gotten to this point. He's not a free agent in any league that I'm in because I think everybody knows what's coming, but he might be in one of yours. And if he's not, you can get him for one of those guys we were just talking about earlier that's sort of dinking around in the 115 range, but is safer, like a slightly injured Jeremy Grant. I keep throwing him out there because I want you guys to trade him so bad. Or before he got hurt, Grady Dick would have been in that range. Or, who the hell else is floating around there? If somebody thought Scottie Pippen was going to be the man for a while, I don't think I would throw Jared McCain in the mix in case the Sixers pull the plug on things. But certainly if stars come back for Philly, Jared McCain would be a great guy to give up because of the shiny new thing. Looking at some of the other names in that range that have been interesting lately, Jabari Smith Jr. has been on kind of a nice upward trend. Maybe that's the time to cash in. Onyeka Okongwu is boring. Jaden McDaniels has been warm lately. That might get it done. Collin Sexton has had a couple of slightly better games, but doesn't have quite the same upside. If you can trade someone who's also not really a must-start player, but looks less obnoxious, that's probably the way to pull that one off. Let's put on the afterburners here because we're approaching the 40-minute mark. Kevin Huerter down 35 slots, but I don't care. Although DeMar DeRozan is back out, so does that move Huerter back into some kind of valuation, or does it just help Malik Monk? I think I would probably lean towards a Malik Monk play, but whatever. DeRozan fell 32 slots, but that's because he got hurt in a ball game and had to leave early, so that one kind of means nothing. Ochai Agbaji fell 31 slots because Scottie Barnes came back, so we don't care about that. Bub Carrington down 26 slots, and that's because Malcolm Brogdon now has taken half of his minutes. Naz Reid down 24 slots. He had two really bad ball games over the last week, but then actually kind of bounced back in his last one, which is a shame because if we did this show yesterday morning, I would have told you Naz Reid was a little bit of a buy low. His steals and blocks are weirdly down so far this year. I think the blocks probably come up in particular, although it's also conceivable his free throw percent comes down to match it. I just think that Naz has a chance to be like what did I say, start of the year, like 85 range guy in a good situation, and half a block would actually go a really long way towards getting him closer there. Dante DiVincenzo, I don't know how he keeps going down, but he keeps going down. He's number 192, and I honestly want nothing to do with him at this point. Is it a buy low? Probably, but I don't want him. CJ McCollum down 23. That's just a matter of time before he settles back where he belongs. Julius Randle down 21. He falls just outside the top 100, which is weird because his percentages are actually not that bad. Randle's rank is low this year because he's been really bad on defense and high turnovers. So actually, like, if you're punting any one of those three things, Randle becomes a much more useful fantasy player. So that one's a little bit of kind of like an artificially low ranking. And he's a buy low. Julius Randle is a buy low in head-to-head formats, not in roto. So we'll leave him off the board here. Mikal Bridges down 20 slots to where he always sort of figured to end up, which is number 94. Sure, the free throw percent's going to come up from 64, but he's not even taking one per game, so that doesn't really matter all that much. And if you punted free throws, meaning you just made him league average, he only moves up like half a round. Klay Thompson down 19 because he's too old, people. I know that there's this common misconception that because we're the old man squad, and I joke about how I like old dudes on my fantasy team, that doesn't mean I draft every old dude. It means that a lot of them, and some of them aren't even that old. We're talking about guys that are like 29, 30 that are considered NBA old, but are still like kind of in the back end of their prime. Those guys are boring. The real name for the network should be the Dan Besbris Boring Team Show. But it just happens that a lot of it ends up being old dudes Klay was too old. We talked about this all preseason long. His only chance at value is when a superstar is out and he can take 15, 16 shots instead of 12. Now, admittedly, that's happening right now, but I'm not buying low on Klay. I want nothing to do with him, like, in aggregate. I want to just drop him into a line. He should be an injury replacement guy in my take. Austin Reaves is down 18 slots, and he actually is a buy low because he's shooting 44.5% from the field and 77 at the free throw line, and we know he's better than that. It's an easy one, guys. When you see percentages are off kilter, that's when you make your move. That doesn't mean that he's going to, like, blow past expectations, but right now he's not making his two-pointers and he's not making his free throws, and that feels like stuff that will figure itself out. What I like about Reaves so far this year is his minutes and usage are up. His minutes are up by 2. So steals are up. Actually, boards and assists are not, for whatever that's worth. They sort of leveled off. Steals are up. Shots are up. His rank is not, but that's because instead of his career mark around 49% shooting, he's around 45. All that has to, and the free throw. The free throw is one of his big claims to fame, but he's not making them. And it's like 2 bad games of free throw shooting that totally mucked up his percentage for the entire year. But that's how it works this time of season. You know, we're only 15, 17, 18 games in, so 2 bad free throw shooting games, that's enough to mess up your percentage. See if you can go get Austin Reaves for anybody ranked really close to Austin Reaves on the board right now. Lou Dort, Andrew Wiggins, Tyus Jones, injured Cam Thomas, Caris LeVert, that won't get it done. Gone too far. Peyton Pritchard. You're not going to. Aaron Gordon, who's out. That won't get it done either. I go up the board at all. PJ Washington, would that get it done? Would you go Ivica Zubats? I don't know, man. I don't know if Zoo shoots 55% of the free throw line the whole time. Mikal Bridges, I would definitely do. I might even do Tobias Harris, although I think both of those guys probably inch their way up the board from where they're at right now. Both guys shooting too low. So that's, I don't know, buy low, sell low. That's dumb. Bilal, hell yeah. Definitely try to get Reaves for Bilal. So I gave you a few names there that I actually stuck with. Who were the ones I said again? Pritchard, Tyus Jones, Andrew Wiggins, Lou Dort, Cam Thomas, Santi Aldama, Caris LeVert, Miles Bridges, Mikal Bridges for sure, Bilal. I don't know if you got any of those guys. See if you can get Austin Reaves. He's going to inch his way up the board. No one's even really going to notice when it happens, but they're going to be like a handful of games where he shoots 52% from the field and goes 4 for 4 at the foul line. And then all of a sudden you're going to look back and you're going to blink twice like the trolls in Frozen. And you're going to hear a bleep, bleep. And then Reaves is going to be like 68 instead of 85. You go, oh, how did that? Oh, right. That's actually our last buy low, but there are 2 other fallers on this board here. Tyler Hero down 18 slots. Again, just a matter of time on this one. There was no way he was going to keep up his torrid pace. He'll fall back probably into that 75 range before all is said and done. De'Aaron Fox falls 17 slots back down to number 31. I had him between 30 and 50 in my rank area. Unless you were punting free throw, he was pretty much, if I'm remembering the buckets, I think I had him as a punt free throw guy if you wanted to go earlier. If you weren't punting free throw, he belonged back kind of in that like 30 range, and that's where he is now. So it's not a buy low. He's just sort of, this is where he belonged. Okay, long show. Let's be done. I'm at Dan Besbris on Twitter. Please do follow and for sure subscribe. A quick reminder to you all in case you've forgotten the names we talked about today. Your sell highs. OG Anunoby, try to get a top 40. Ty Jerome, try to get a top 100. Brandon Miller, try to get a top 40. Franz Wagner, try to get a top 30. John Collins, try to get a top 50 or 60. Your buy lows. Desmond Bane, give up someone in the 75 range for him. D'Lo, give up someone that's like a really good filler. And Austin Reaves, give up anybody that's basically around him in the rankings because he's about to inch ahead of them overall. Those are your 8 key names out of 40 some odd hot and cold players this week. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We will have a show Thanksgiving morning, probably recapping the Giant Wednesday card. I think that's what I've decided. I think we'll then do the weekend review show on Friday. That'll include the big Wednesday card, and then, a few days prior to that with other stuff that went on leading up to it. And then if it should probably be one show on Friday, and then we'll probably try to do a show on Saturday as well, just to try to keep everybody kind of up to speed here on a tougher week to stay in tune with stuff. Again, I'm Dan for Old Man Squad. Dan Vespers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky, Old Man Squad Fantasy Instagram. Like, rate, subscribe. I'm realizing I forgot to do the Bet Online read, so what an idiot. I will do it now at the very end. This Thanksgiving holiday, why not head to the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting at Bet Online. They've got the earliest odds. They've got in-game live betting. They've got constant real-time odds and action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, including football, NBA, college hoops, NHL, UFC, and boxing. Go to the website today to see why BetOnline is America's most trusted site for online wagering. They are, of course, once again, BetOnline. The game starts here. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We're done for today. I'll see you Thanksgiving morning. Peace.